Um, Hello again, guys. So today we will be looking at uh, HTML forms and tables, which is which consists of 53 steps mostly. So we'll just start again. Okay. How do forms, labels, and inputs work in HTML? The form element in HTML is used to gather user information such as name, email, addresses. Here is an example of a form element. Form action is your goes here and element goes here. Okay. The action attribute specifies where the form data will be sent upon submission. Okay. To collect specific informations like name, email address, you would use the input element. Here is an example of using input element. Enable the interactive editor and interact with the input element with the preview window by typing in your name in the field. Okay. Just try to type. Okay, we are able to type it. Okay. Just write down this definition of form element in HTML. Form element in HTML is used to gather user information such as names and email addresses. Okay. Now, just write down this line also. The action attribute specifies action attribute specifies where the form data will be sent upon submission. Okay. Now, to collect specifically, like you use input element. Okay. Now let's see. Input elements are void elements and do not have closing tags. Okay. Okay. And the type attribute defines the data type expected from the user. Okay, we are having text over here. Just write down this one also, just for a basic, template for this. Do we need this slash? I don't think so. Yeah, we don't need it. It will work actually. Since it's a void element, we don't need that. But if you want, you can use it. I think. And then input type is equal to text. Then we are closing form again. Okay. Okay. Now let's see. To add a label, the input, you would use a label element. Add a label for the input. Okay. Okay. Like this. Let's see. Okay, input element. Here is an example of using a label element with the text of full name. Click on the text full name in the preview window and you will see the input go into this focus. To interact with the example, you will need to enable the interactive bit here. Okay, you can see my name can be typed here. Okay. Okay, by nesting an input inside a label element, you create an implicit association between the label and input field. The term implicit refers to something that is understood or inferred without needing to explicitly stated or defined with additional attributes or elements. To explicitly associate a label with an input, you can use the for attribute. Here is an example of using the for attribute for an email address label. Label for email. Okay. Okay, type is email here. Okay. Okay. ID is email. ID is email because we have labeled here as email. Okay. Interact in okay. Now, when using an explicit association, the values for attribute and ID needs to be same. In this case, the values are both set to email. The email type in the input provides basic validation for correctly formatted email addresses. If you want to show additional hints to the users about the expected input, you can use the placeholder attribute. Here's an example using the placeholder attribute inside the email input. Okay, if you want to show additional hints to the users about the expected input, you can use the placeholder attribute. Okay, here's an example of solution. Okay, let's see. Input placeholder. Okay, we have. Okay, it's now showing inside the input box itself on what type of placeholder it is. Okay, now for the placeholder test, you want to provide helpful shortcuts to show the format and type of data you expect from the users. In this case, the placeholder test is example@email.com. Shows the user that they must enter a correctly formatted email address. Okay. Okay, this works. Now just write down this part, these 2 lines if you want, because this addresses most of the things needed to be. Okay. So just write down. Okay, let's solve the MCQ. What is the role of for attribute inside the label element? It indicates the color of the element. No, it is used to explicitly associate label with an input. Yes. It specifies the alignment of the label within its container. No. It uses JavaScript function. No. Which of the following is a correct value of the type attribute used inside inputs? What about your correct value? Correct type attribute. Type touch spots. No. Number input. No. This can be done. Touched. Yes. What is the role of the placeholder attribute inside the input element? It is used to provide a hint of example within an input field. Yes. Maximum length of characters allowed, no. It defines the initial value displayed in the input field, no. Specify type of input field, no. Let's see, we are correct, yes. Now moving on. Next one is basically what are the different types of buttons, when should you use them? Yes, the button element is used to perform a particular action when it is activated. Here is an example of button element with the start button text of start game. Okay, here we have. Other examples of using button element include submitting a form, showing a model, or toggling a side menu open and closed. The button element has a type attribute which controls the behavior of the button when it is activated. The first possible value for the type attribute would be button type. Here is an example of using button element with the button type and a text of show alert. Okay. By default, the button will not do anything when activated. However, you can add some JavaScript code to make the button interactive, such as showing an alert in this case. Click on show alert button to see the alert pop on the screen. To interact with the example, you will need to enable the interactive editor. This interactive example is using JavaScript, but you don't need to worry about understanding JavaScript code. You will learn about JavaScript in future models. Okay, now let's see. Okay, you can see one alert has came over here. Then yeah, JavaScript, we don't need to see that. We won't need to worry about JavaScript right now. We'll just see what they have done here. They have called the script index.js for JavaScript, and button is type button. Okay, now another possible value for the type is the submit value. Okay, let's just write down the format of button type is equal to again button, then show alert, then you're closing the button. Type can be, one is button, second one would be submit. Okay, possible values of type submit value. Here is an example of using a button element with the submit type. We have put label and input type is email, ID type is email. Okay, button type is submit form. Okay, inside this form element there is label and input element for user's email address. When user clicks on the submission button, their data will be sent to the server and will be processed. The third possible value for type attribute is reset value. Here is an example of form element and with reset and submit buttons. Reset button is also there. Okay, enable. Okay, then click on preview and providing. Click on the reset button. We type anything. If you type anything like this here and if you reset, you can see it's resetted and it's starting with an empty box again. Okay, now yeah, type is reset and submit. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. In this modified example, a label and input element are used to collect the user data address. When the user clicks the reset button, then it will clear out their input data. Okay, type reset form. Okay, it will clear out all their input data. It is important to note that reset buttons are usually not the best idea because they could lead to users accidentally resetting their data. Also, multiple buttons in your form could clutter up the user interface. Yes. Another way to create buttons in HTML to use input element is to use input. The input element also has a type attribute with the possible values of submit, reset button. Here is an example of using input with the type button. Okay, we can do this also. Value touch. Okay, input would be a void element, I think. So input, then class is equal to start button. I think the start button is basically for JavaScript code. Then type is equal to button. Value will be start game. Start game. Okay, the value attribute is used to show the button touched. Okay, so what is the difference between using input and button elements? Input elements are void elements, which means they cannot have child nodes such as touched and can only have a start tag. On the other hand, the button element offers more flexibility because you can nest text, images, and icons inside it. Okay. Let's just write that down. Input can have button type also, and wait, attribute with the possible values of okay, now this is button type. Input type is also having reset and so on. Okay, now to say what they are saying is so input elements are void elements and buttons you can next touch channel. These are void elements, and button element is you can nest touched, images and icons. Okay, what is the following? Which of the following is not a valid value for the type attribute? Valid value for the type attribute inside buttons. In type button can be button reset and submit. This is not any type of button. It's SRC. What is the role of type reset inside the button element? Also, it only resets touched area elements inside the button element. Okay, it resets the form. There is no behavior. It only resets touched area elements. No. What is another element you can use to represent button? It is input. Let's see if it's correct. Yes, we are correct. Now moving on. Okay, this section would be to what is client-side form validation in HTML forms? What are some examples? When a user fills out a form on your website, it is important that they fill out all the necessary information in the correct format. HTML form controls like input have a lot of built-in validation that you can use to check for invalid data. This will help ensure that the user fixes these mistakes before the information is submitted and processed by the server. The term client-side refers to everything that happens on the user's computer or device, like the part of a website or app you interact with directly. This includes the layout, design, and any interactive features. The term server-side refers to everything that happens on the server, the computer, or the system that hosts the website or app. This includes processing data, running applications, and handling requests that come from user's device. While client-side validation is important, you also need server-side validation for added security. Malicious users can bypass client-side checks, so robust server-side measures are essential. We will learn more about this in a later module. For now, let's take a look at some example of client-side form validation. One common example of built-in form validation is to use required attribute in inputs. The required attribute specifies that the user needs to fill out the portion of the form before it gets submitted. Here is an example of required attribute. Saying required attribute specifies that the user needs to fill out that portion of the form before it gets submitted. Okay. Click on the submit form without providing email address and you will see a message pop up telling you to fill out the field. Okay. Yeah, you can see that. Okay. Okay. Just write down about the required attribute. The required attribute inside required inside input specifies that the user needs to fill out that portion of the form before it gets submitted. Okay. Okay. Now, each browser will have its own set of styles for showing the alert message. Another advantage of using the email input is that email inputs have some basic validation to ensure correctly formatted email addresses. Okay. For example, if you type random words and click submit, then the browser will show an alert that an @ sign is missing. Type ABC into the field and click on submit. You will see a message pop up because it's not a valid. Okay. We'll write something like this. Then you will submit. You can say please include an @ in the email address. Okay. So yeah. Yeah. So it's using input section here, and required is also there. But yeah, email. Oh, since it's an email, I think. Since the type is email, that's why it's showing @ is needed. Okay. Now, it is important to note that browsers only check for basic validation for standard email address. It is up to you to add additional layers of validation, which you will learn about in later modules. Okay. Other forms of validation for email inputs are to use the minimum length and maximum length, I guess, and attributes. Here's an example of using the extra validation. The B @ M in the field, click on the submit button, type B @ M. Okay, you will see a message pop up because it doesn't meet the minimum required length. Okay, I have typed here, and you can see when I submit it, you can say that please lengthen this text to 4 characters. Okay, you can see the input type has now required, and type is email. Name is also email. Name is email because name is email. ID is email. And yeah, great. Okay. Okay. So minimum length and is 4 and maximum length is 64. Okay. The minimum length and maximum length attributes are used to set, just write minimum, min length and min length, max length. It's pretty self-explanatory. So if you want, you can write down the definitions. Otherwise, just leave it. Right. Just write the headings for your reference only. The min length and max length attributes are used to set the minimum and maximum length in characters for the email input. If you don't include the minimum length or exceed the maximum length of characters, the browser will show an alert message. Okay. What is the procedure minimum length and maximum length? Are they both used to control? No. They both used to set the minimum and maximum length of characters in the input. Yes. They used to define the width of the input field on the page. No. They are used to specify this maximum number of characters that can be typed in a text area. This is somewhat correct because but it's only talking about maximum number, so it's only talking about numbers only, and maximum only, we have minimum length also, so it's not mentioning that, so it's not right. So which attributes is used to ensure that an input field is marked as required? Required field only, which required attribute only. Yeah. What happens if you try submit a value with an at sign for the email without an at sign? The browser will show an alert message that input is missing. Yes. You can see everything is correct. Now you can submit. Okay, we have a small ad over here. Okay, now let's see what are the different form states and why are they important. In HTML, form controls like input can be in different stages or condition, like a focused state, read-only state, disabled state. Okay, so the first state would be considered the default state, and the default state of an email address input is a blank input. That is what the email input looks like when it is first rendered on the page. Okay. Default email input is blank input. Okay, this is blank input. Now, when the user clicks on the form controller or selects it with keyboard tab key, then that means it is in the focus states. When the input is in the focus states, most browsers will show a blue highlighted border around the input, but you can choose to add additional styles in CSS. Okay, click on any part of the white space in the preview window and then press tab key to see the focus state. To see the previews, we need to enable the interactive editor. So we'll click here and click on tab. You can see it's highlighted in black color, I guess. Yes, this is in black color. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Now another state is the disabled state. This, okay. For active and default, they haven't focused, and default they haven't written anything. And another form stable is disabled state. This state shows user that input cannot be focused or activated. Enable the interactive editor. Try clicking on the email input and you will notice that it will not focus anymore. Okay, you can see you can't click the text box anymore because it is disabled. Okay, just write down these three types: focused, input stages. You can say input stages would be focused, default, read only, and disabled. Okay, now another form is disabled. Okay, we haven't seen this. Now, similar to focus state, you can choose to add additional styles for the disabled state using CSS. Okay. Another type of form state is the read-only state. That is when a form control, like an input, is not edited by the user. Here is an example of setting an email input to read-only. The value attribute is used to set the value shown inside the input field. Okay. Form control. This is when a form control like an input is not edited by the user. Here's an example of setting an email input to read only. The value attribute is used to set the value shown inside the input field. Okay. Enable the interactive and try editing the current value. And you will notice that it is not possible. Okay, it's read only. We can copy it and select it, anything, but we can't do anything. We can't edit anything. We can't remove any letters, characters, or anything. Okay, a key difference between disabled state and read only state is the read only can be focused when the disabled state cannot be. Okay. Here read only can, this is not focused right now. This is in default state. If we click here, it is focused right now, but disabled state cannot be focused. Understanding the different form states is important because they ensure a smooth user experience by providing clear feedback and guidance while handling errors. Okay. Now, which attribute is used to disable an input? So disable attribute, which attribute is used to mark an input read only? So this is read only. When does the focus state occur? When an input field is disabled and cannot be interacted with. No. When an input field is validated and shows an error message. No. The user clicks on an input and select it using the error focus. Yes. Now let's check the answers. Okay, we can see it's correct. So let's move on. Okay, this section is done. Now we have 49 more sections. Now we have to build a hotel feedback form. Okay, now let's start building. Okay, this is what we are going to build. Okay, now this is the most advanced we have gone with HTML till now, I think. Okay, let's see. Okay, in this workshop, you will practice working with HTML forms by building a hotel feedback form. For the introductory text, you will want to display the main title followed by a short note about leaving feedback. Okay. Inside your body element, add a header element. Okay. Inside the header element, add an HR element. Okay. Inside body, we need to open a header. Now we'll close the header also. Okay. Now inside header element, they are asking us to add one H1 element. Element should be hotel feedback form. Okay. Now we'll close the H1 element, and below your H1 element, add P element. Okay. We'll add a P element, and this should be the text. Okay, you can say the heading and paragraph element is already here. Now let's check our code. Okay, it's correct. Let's submit and move forward. Now it is time to add the main element, which represents the main content of the page. Okay, after this we will add a main element. Now we'll also close a main element. Okay, you can see it's correct. Let's move forward. Now, in the previous lessons, you learned how to work with the form element like this. The action attribute is used to specify where the form data should be sent when the form is submitted. Yes. The method attribute is used to specify the HTTP method to use when sending the form data. Okay. We haven't written this part. So, just write down this sentence over here. The method attribute is to specify the HTTP method to use and sending the form data, and most common methods are get and post. Note: you will learn about how HTTP method works in later modules. Okay, inside your main element, add a form element with an action attribute set to this one and a method attribute set to this one. Okay, we have to add a form element over here. Form element is here. Now action should be set to this. Okay, and after this we need a method which will be set to post. Don't know about what get and post they mean by this. It will be mentioned later in the course, I believe. So now we need to close the form also. Okay, you can see it's correct. Let's move forward. Forms consist of inputs where users can input their data. You can group related inputs together using the field set element. Forms consist inputs where users can input their data. Okay, you can group related inputs together using the field set element. Okay, we haven't written this one. Just write down the last sentence. You can group related inputs together using field set element. Okay. Now you can see the form is open right now, and we can group it inside field set. Okay, we need to just make a field set element inside this. Now we need to close the field set also. Field set. Yes, we can check our code. You can see it's correct. Let's move forward. Okay, when working with field set elements, it is common to use caption to describe the group of inputs. You can use the legend element for this. Okay, we need to use a caption to describe the group of inputs. Legend. Okay, in a field set element, add a legend element. We can just add a legend element over here. We don't know what they meant by this. We'll see, I guess. We'll just close the legend also. Now, oh, they want this inside the legend. Okay, you can see it's correct. Let's move on to the next step. Okay, in the previous lessons you learned how to associate label element with an input element like this. Okay, now for attribute for the label element should match the ID attribute of the input element. Okay, this is known as an explicit association. Yes, below your legend element, add a label element. Okay, we need to add a label element, and not inside, right? Yeah, label below legend we are adding a label element, and with the text of this one. Okay, so we need to set its for attribute. For attribute is this one. Okay, just paste this over here. Okay. Okay, now this is done, and we'll just close this, and the touch should be this one. So we'll just copy this and paste it here, and we'll close the label. Now, then below your label element, add an input element with no attributes. In the next step, you will add necessary attributes. Okay, we'll need to add input element. That's it. We'll just open and close the input element, and that's it. Check our code. It's correct. Let's move forward. Okay. Now, when a user provides their full name, the input will accept plain text. Okay. In previous lesson, you learned how to work the type attribute like this. Yes. For your existing input element, add a type attribute. We'll just copy this inside our input element. Set to text. Also give input element an ID attribute with the value of full name. Okay. Just inside input. Oh, you made an error last time because we closed input. It was a void element actually. So we'll put a type, and after type we'll put one ID, where this will be the ID. We'll just, yeah. Now let's check our code. It's correct. Let's move on. Okay. Now the name attribute is used to identify form data after it has been submitted to the server. Here is an example of how to use the name data. Okay. Add a name attribute to the input element with the value of name. Attribute. Okay. What is it used for again? Name attribute is used to identify form data after it has been submitted to the server. Okay. Now in this, we'll just need to add a name. So yeah, and our name is basically name only. So just check that. Okay, it's creating this box-like structure because of field set, I believe. Just remove this and see. Okay, you can see Legend has created. No, did Legend create this? Okay, box is already there. Field set is creating the table, and Legend is creating the title on that, and the rest of the things are coming inside it. Okay, let's move forward. Now, in the previous lessons, you learned how to work with a placeholder and required attributes like this. Okay. For your existing input, add a placeholder attribute with this value. Okay. You just need to keep adding attributes into input, and this should be the text inside placeholder. This one, and add a required attribute to the input element. You will just write required over here. You can say the John Doe is over here as a placeholder. Okay, now this is done. Now next step, it's to your hotel feedback form should also collect an email address from the user. Start adding a new label element with the text email address required, and label element should have 4 attributes set to email. Okay, just copy this label element, paste it, just change whatever we need to change. So instead of full name, we need to write email over here. That's it. And instead of name required, it will be email address required. Okay. And that's it. You can see one more section is over here right now. Email address required. Okay, that's it. It's correct. Let's move on. Now, let's add an input with the type email below your email label. This input should have an ID attribute set to value of email. Also set the name attribute to the value of email. The input is also required, so that make sure to add the required attribute. Only add a placeholder set to @email.com. Okay, just copy this input right now. Just change what and all we need. Once we change, we'll change one by one. Okay, add an input element. We have added. Now type should be email. We'll copy this. We'll change the type over here. Now ID should be the input should have ID that attribute set to email also. Okay, we'll change the full name here and that set to email, and name should also be set to email. Just change this name. It will be set to email. Placeholder we need to change, and okay, just need to change the placeholder also. Required is already there, so we don't need to change that. You can see one more section is over here right now with email address. It's correct. Moving on to the next one. Okay, so input elements can have a size attribute. This attribute defines the number of characters that should be visible on the user text into the input. The value of size should be a non-negative integer greater than 0. If size is not specified or is specified with an invalid value, the input will have the default width set by the browser. Okay. Keep the name and email inputs a size attribute with the value of 20. Okay, we are keeping it 20. So, to define number of characters should be visible as the user types in the input. The value of size should be okay. Just put give the name and email inputs. Okay, we just need to, after this we'll just put this size, and after this we'll put this also. We need to change it to 20 because that's what they asked us. Okay, let's see what they meant by it. Okay, you can see I have written 20 characters right now, A to T, and after that I can't type anymore. So that's what they meant by this. We'll submit and continue. And your hotel feedback form should have an option for users to add their age. Start by adding label element with the text age optional to the form. And for attribute set to, okay, we need to add a label element. Now we'll just copy this. Put this, and 4 elements should be set to age. Okay, this should be set to age optional. Okay, done. Now let's move forward. Now, the number input is used to create a numeric input field. Here is an example of number input field, and inside input type its number. ID, age, name, age, minimum 18, maximum 100. Okay. Minimum and maximum attributes are used to set the minimum and maximum values that can be entered in the input field. Below your label element, add a input with the type attribute set to number and ID of age. Okay. Name attribute should be set to age, and minimum attribute should be set to 3 and maximum should be set to 100. Okay. Now below your below your label element, okay, add an input element. We need to put an input element. We'll just copy this and paste it here and change as we go. Type set to number. Type is set to number. Then we'll just copy this and change the type over here. Type is number right now, and ID is age. ID is age, and name attribute should be set to age only. Okay. Name attribute should be set to age. Okay. The minimum attribute should be set to placeholder and other things. We don't need it, so we'll just skip it. And minimum we will set to 3. Maximum we will set to 100. Let's check our code. Yes, it's correct. Let's move forward. Okay. The next section in the form will be responsible for asking users if they have stayed at the hotel before. Start by adding a field set element. Inside the field set element, add a legend element with the text. This one. Okay. Now we are making the previous one is done. Now we are making a new field set element. I'll just copy this now. This is here. Next, we'll close the field set element. And now inside this we need to put our legend element for the next box actually. So legend is here, but the text should be different. So we'll just copy this and we'll just paste it here. Okay, it's done. Now let's move forward. Now, if you want users to select one option from the list of options, you can use a set of radio buttons. Okay. Input type can be radio also. Okay. Input type can be text, number, radio, and button. Okay. Now, in this example, the radio buttons are grouped together by using the same name attribute values. Okay. This means that only one radio button can be selected at a time. Okay. Below your legend element, add a radio button with the ID set to, we need to put radio button. So, this is the radio button. We'll just put it here below our legend thing. And type is radio. ID with the ID set to yes option. This one we'll just copy and we'll change the ID over here. Okay. Now, and name attribute set to hotel stay. Now we need to add a value attribute say to yes. We will write value and value equals to yes. Below your radio button, add a label element with the text yes radio button. Add a label element, okay, with the text yes Okay. And for attribute set to yes option. Yes, we need to put label below this. This is input right now, and we need to put a label to the input. And yes option. This should be yes option. Okay, let's check our code. Done. Let's move forward. Okay. Now below your label element, add a radio button with the ID set to no option. Okay. Below your label element, add a radio element again. This is the radio element. Input element is basically input ID is radio, so that is what they meant by radio button. Okay. Now name type should be radio. Name should be hotel stay, and a value of attribute will be set to no instead of yes. Okay. Now below your new radio button, add another label element with the for attribute set to no option. Below your new radio button, add another label. Okay. Element with the for attribute set to no option. We will put an label element below our radio button, then instead of yes option it will be set to no option, and here also it will be set to no. When you are finished, you can try out the radio buttons by selecting one option. Okay, we can see yes is now selected. Once we select no, yes is getting unselected, so it means we can only select one of them at a time, because the main reason is name is same for both. Okay, your input element should have an ID, no option. Okay. This should be no, sorry. Yeah. Okay, done. Now the next section of the form will ask users why they choose that particular hotel. Users will have the opportunity to select multiple options. Start by adding another field set. Inside the field set, add an eligible. Okay, I'll just make new field set. Here we'll just close the field set. After this, now we need to put a legend element. And instead of our text, this will be the new text for the next section. This. Okay. Now that is done, just check our code. Okay, it's correct. Let's move forward. When you want a user to select multiple options from a list, you can use the checkboxes. When you want a user to select multiple options from the list, okay. Here is an example of how to work with the checkboxes dealing with food options. Okay, you can see input type is now checkbox also. Let's write down the new type, checkbox. Okay. The value attribute is used to specify the value that will be sent to the server when the form is submitted. Okay, value. Okay. It means that if we select this one, the value they will send is pizza. Okay. Attribute sets to ads. Attribute sets to okay. Below your legend element, add a checkbox input. We need to put this input first. After input, we need to label that input. This will be set. Now add an input with the ID and value attribute set to ads. ID will be set to ads, and value will be set to ads. Okay. Now that ID and value set to ads, name attribute will be set to choice. Name attribute will be set to choice. Okay. Below the checkbox input, add a label element with the text social media ads, and the four, this one. Okay, just copy the level from here. Then the four would be to would be set to ads, and the touch should be social media ads. Okay, you can send first option is here, social media ads. Let's move on. That's next one. Okay, ad is here. Okay, now add another checkbox input with the ID and value attribute set to recommendation. And okay, we need to put input. We need to put a new input and new label. So we'll just copy this, paste it here, and input with the ID value attribute set to recommendation. ID and value should be recommendation. ID will be here and value will be here. Okay, recommendation name will be set to choice. Wait, we'll need to set something else also in recommendation. So this one will also be in recommendation. Okay, now please check, this will be changed to choice. Name will be changed to choice. Name is already choice. Okay. Okay, it's a choice because we are making a checkbox, so same. Okay. Now below the input, add another label with the text personal recommendation. Okay. Now you can see we can select two options at the same time. So we can select multiple options in a checkbox. Okay. Okay. Now that this is done, check below the checkbox input. Okay. Yeah. Before attribute should be set to recommendation. We have already done that. Okay, done. Let's move forward. Now, let's add another checkbox input with the ID value attribute set to location. And okay, we need to do the same thing again. Input and label. Okay, input ID and value should be set to location right now. If ID is set to location and value will be set to location, and since that is changed, labels 4 will also be changed to location. Now the text should be location. Instead of social media ads was one before. The location is done, and you can see we have 3 options right now. So if we select this, and this, it's working. Okay, you should have four checkbox input below your label. Okay, we need to add one more, I think. Okay, I forgot. Below the label element, add another checkbox. One more. Paste it here, and this checkbox input and ID of the value should be reputation. Reputation will be the ID and value will also be reputation, and 4 will also be reputation. Now name attribute will be set to choice only. Then label and the text would be reputation. Okay, you can see we have 4 options right now. Let's move forward. Okay, to make a checkbox input checked by default, you can add the checked attribute. Here's an example of checked attribute. Add the checked attribute to the checkbox input with the ID of repetition. Okay, this one we need to add checked. That's it. You can see repetition become checked as default. Now, if you want to uncheck it, you can, but it will be checked as default. Okay. Then next one. For the final input and label inside the field set, we will add checkbox input with the okay. Now we need to add the final one. Just put it over here, and this will have ID and value set to price. ID will be set to price. Value will be set to price. For will also be set to price. Now choice same only. Label touch should be price. Okay, now we have 5 options over there. You can now test out your form by selecting multiple checkboxes. You can see you can check. Yeah, and the repetition was already checked because we have, put the checked attribute inside this. So we can check multiple options. In fact, we can check all the options. Okay, done. Okay, the next section of the form will provide users with the ability to leave a rating for the hotel. Okay. Start by adding a new field set element with the legend element. Okay, we need to add a new field set element. Add field set element. Now we need to close field set element also. Now we will need a legend. We'll just copy this. Inside this will basically copy. Start with field element, and legend should have the text ratings. Okay, hence they are saying instead of this, we should just write ratings. Okay, the 4th section is here right now. And below the legend element, add a label element with the text how was the service and for attribute. Okay, we'll just use the label element from here. Below the legend element, we'll paste it here. Label for price 4 would be set to service. And text will be set to how was the service. Okay, so text is over here right now. Now, when you want user to make selections from a drop-down menu, you can use the select and option elements. Here is an example of using select and option elements to create a drop-down for different cities. Okay. Start by adding a select element with the name and ID attribute set to service. We'll just need to add a select element right now. Space this here. ID, name and ID should be set to service. That's it. Service. This will also be a service. We'll just need to close the select option. Now inside your select element, add the following 5 options elements with the corresponding value for the option, text and value attribute. Okay. Option, we will open the option and with these corresponding values for the option text and value attribute. Value will be equal to First one is poor. Okay. Now next text will be okay. The thing is, we need to add value as poor, and the option element text should be poor also, but P is capital in this one. Now we just need to close the option. Okay, we need to add 5 of this, so we'll just copy this, paste, 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 paste. Okay, now we'll just change this one by one. Okay, you can see the options are here in the drop down list. And that's it. Let's move on to the next one. Now, to make an option selected by default, you can add the selected attribute to the option element you want to be selected. Here's an example of using selected. Just the road selection inside option. Okay. Inside the select element, add the selected attribute to the option element with the value of excellent. Excellent. This is one. So this one will be selected. So instead of poor, now it's excellent. And that's it. Yeah, let's move forward. Now, your hotel feedback form should also give users the ability to rate the food. Start by adding a label element with the text how was the food. Label element should have 4 attributes set to food. Okay. You need a label element. It should say how was the food. And 4 should be food only. Okay. Now below the label element, add a select element with ID name food. Okay. Below this we need this select element. Now ID and this one will be select. Name would be set to food only. We need to close the select element also. That's correct. Let's move forward. Now, inside your select element, add the following 5 options, option elements with these corresponding values for the text and attribute. Okay, we need to put don't forget to add the selected attribute option element excellent. Okay, just need to do the same thing only. So we'll just copy this from here only. So paste, yeah, same thing. Done. Yes, it's correct. Let's move forward. Okay. The last section of the form will allow users to provide any additional feedback they like about the hotel. Start by adding a label element with the okay, we need to add a label element anyway. Just put it here. Okay, label element with the text of other comments. Okay, and a 4 attributes set to comments. That's it. Okay, done. Now next one. If you want users to have a more specific, more space to write their comment, you can use a text area element. The text area element is a multi-line text input control that allows users to enter text that is longer than a single line. And okay, we just write this down. Text area element is a multi-line text that is no longer than a single line. Okay. Now it can be used to create a comment box, a message input, or other text input that requires multiple lines. Here is an example. Okay, we text area ID is there, name is there, and rows and columns are also mentioned. Okay, the rows attribute is used to specify the visible height of the text, and the columns are used to specify the visible width of the text. Below, they will add a text area element. In the next, we will add the necessary button. Okay, do we need to close this? Yes. Okay. Oh. Yeah. Okay. For a text area elements, add an ID and name attribute with the values of comments. ID. Okay. ID will be set to ID and ID and name will also be set to comments. For the columns attribute, okay, columns value should be set to 30 and rows value should be set to 10. Okay, you can see the box is here right now, but the text is below. I don't know if it's supposed to be like this. The target text should have calls attribute. Okay. It's not columns, it's calls actually. Sorry. Calls, comma, rows. Okay, it's almost done. Now, for the last step in the hotel feedback form workshop, you will need to add a submit button to the form. Remember that you learned how to work submit button in previous lessons. Add a button element with the type attribute. Okay, we need to put an input button with the type is equal to button. And okay, no, we are adding, they are asking us to add button element only, not input. So this will be button element op, and button type will be set to submit, and the text content set to submit. Okay, so also will be submit. To close the button. Okay, submit button is also there, and with that your hotel feedback form is complete. Yes, we have done it. Now let's submit and continue. Okay, this main part is done. Now we just need this much part left, and yeah, 37 steps are complete. 16 more steps to go. Okay, now next section would be to working with the tables. This is a lesson, I think. Yeah. What are HTML tables used for, and what should they not be used for? Okay, HTML tables are used as much these days as they used to be, but as a front-end developer, you should be still be familiar with. Tables are one of the earliest ways developers had for displaying data in a browser way back in the 1990s. It's an example of code used to generate a table from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. Okay, they have created this table. Okay, as you can see, there's a main table element with an ID, quick facts. Okay, inside the table has a table head element. Table head element. Okay, T head. I think. T head. Table body element T body. Okay, and table foot element TF. Where is it? Okay, it's below here. Okay, okay. Okay. Now, the table head, body, and foot element can each contain some number of table rows, TR, and each table row can contain a table header, TH, which labels, just write down these names, table, then comes down to T head, T body, T footer or T foot, then TR, TH, and TD. Okay, TR. Each table row can contain table header, which labels the data in that row. It can also contain some number of individual data cell called table data. Okay, I don't know what that means. Let's see. TH is having typical entry level education. Typical entry level education. Okay. TH, which labels the data in the row. Okay. Now that's individual data cells. Okay, data cells are the right side one, and these are the table header. Now that's a lot of HTML elements, but don't be intimidated. These follow a simple hierarchy. Here's the simplest table we can create that include all of these elements. So we have a table head over here with one title of this table body with a th first row, then td will be having this one. This is the table data. Row head data. Yeah. Okay. Now, so as you can see, the data itself is always within a TR. Okay. And within that TR element is a TH element with a header and a TD element with a data. Some websites choose to use divs to build their own tables instead of using the more appropriate table element. While it is possible to display tabular data using generic div elements, it is still better to use table element instead. Many years ago, developers might have used a table to position non-data elements on a web page. This was never considered a best practice. Table to position non-data elements. But you may encounter some code bases where tables are still used like this. Nowadays, developers use CSS, Flexbox, and Grid to lay out the design. FreeCodeCamp will cover these tools in depth later. For now, just use HTML tables for their original intended purpose, displaying tabular data. Okay. In a HTML table, which elements are contained within the tier T, H, and TD? Yes. Which are the following elements? The following are the main sections of the HTML table. Main, T head, T body, and T foot. Yes. What is the main recommendation use of HTML tables today? Creating page layout, displaying table of data. Yes. That's it. Let's see if it's correct. Correct. Yes. That's all. Now that is also done. Now next is build a final exams table. Okay, let's continue. This is what we are going to build. Okay. In this workshop, you will, Practice working with HTML tables by building a final exam table for a group of students. Okay. In previous videos, you learned how to work with the table elements to represent table element. Inside the border, nest a table element. Okay. Just need to create a table element. Table here. And we'll also close the table. Okay, now that is done. Now next option. So to add a caption to the table, you can use the table caption element. Here's an example of using table caption element. Okay, inside the table we can have a table caption. Table caption and nested caption element inside the table with this one as the caption. I just need to close the caption. Okay, that is done. Now, for the first section of the review, you'll want to group the header contents which responds to the column labels for the student's name, first name, last name, and final exam grade. The table head element T head is used to group the header content in the table. This is an example of T head element. Okay. Below your caption element, add a table head element. Okay, T head. That's it. Continue. Now, the table head element consists of a table row element TR, which consists of table header cells TH. Is an example of TR and TH. Inside a T head element, add a TR element. Okay, TR element is there. We just need to close the TR element also. Okay. Now, inside your TR element, add 3 TH. Okay. Now close TH. Need to add one more TH. Okay. First TH element should contain the text last name. Second TH should contain this one. And the third one should contain grade. Okay. Okay, you can see here 3 table heads are here right now. Now that you have completed the head section, it's time to add the table body section. Table add a table body to the element. Okay. Just need to add a T body over here. Also close T body. If we have an ad, okay. To add students' data to the table, you will need to use the table row and table data elements. Okay. Table row and table data element. Table data element TD is used to create cell in the table. Here is an example of using the TD. Okay. TR and TH is already here. Okay. TD is used to okay. Inside your table body element, add a table row element TR with 3 table data elements TD. Add a table row element TR. Okay, I'll just close the TR also. Now inside TR, you need to create 3 TD elements. TD, close TD. Okay. I'm trying to add two more students to be following the same pattern in the previous. Add second student isn't that third student. Just need to do the same thing only. Just copy paste these data into the section. That's it. Okay, we have three students right now. Now let's see what else is needed. It's time to add two more students. Need to add two more. It's just copy paste at the moment right now, but mostly it's just easy. It's following the same pattern for all the students. Just a lot of TD table data being assigned as the row values. We have five students right now, and let's see what else. The last section to add to the table would be the table foot element, T foot. Table foot element will be used to display the average grade for all students in the table. Add T foot element to the table. Inside the T foot element, add a TR. Okay, we'll add a T foot here. We'll close the T foot also. Inside T foot, we will add the TR element. We will need to close the TR element also. Now we need to add two TD element inside TR. Okay, the first TD should be considered return this one. Second one, TD should have this value. You can see the last section is over here, and that step is done. Now the next one. The table is almost complete, but there is one last thing to add. It would be nice if the ID element used for the average grade would span across two columns instead of just one. TD element used for. Okay, to do this, you can use the call span attribute on the TD element. The call span attribute specifies the number of columns the shell should contain. Here's an example. Okay, inside the TD element, add the call span attribute set to 2. Call span will be set to. This should also have it. Okay. Okay. I think that is good. Okay, this section is also done. Now we have completed 48 out of 53 steps, 5 more steps remaining. Next is build a book catalog table. Book catalog table. This is one single thing. So we need to build an app that is functionally similar to this example project. Try not to copy the example project, give it to your personal style. Okay. Fulfill the user stories below and I will post. Should create a table element. Okay. Head element is open, closed, and inside body element we need to create a table. We need to close the table. Okay, now your table should have the table head element with one row in it. Table should have a table head element. Close table head. Okay, with one row in it. Wait, this table head will be inside the row, right? Shit. Yes. Oh, sorry. It's table head, not th. Now this will have a tr over here, and we will need to close the tr. Okay. Now the row in the table head element should have a table header element with the title. This is okay. Inside this we need the td, not th, and we need to close th also. This we need for th 2, 3, 4. Now title or the journal. And public here. Now we have 4 table heads here. Your table should have a table body element with at least 5 rows in it. Table head should have a table body. Now table head is complete. Okay. Now after table head you need t body, close t body. Okay. T body element with at least 5 rows. 5 rows. We need 5 tr. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Each row in your table body should have 4 table data elements. Each row in your table body should have a 4 data table. Each row in your table have 4 data table elements. Okay, inside each row we need 4 data table. TD, and we need 4 of these inside every row. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Okay. We have 4 data tables that display them. Okay. Table should have table footer element with 1 row in it. Table foot, okay, table body is done. Now we need a T foot. We need to close T foot, and yeah, this is the last part. Should I with one row in it? Table foot should have one row only. TR should be closed also. Okay. Now that is done, row in your table footer element should have table data element that should have table data, and that spans across 4 columns and the touched okay. Okay, table data element will be closed. Now, row should have a table data element that spans 4 columns as the okay. Columns 2, I think. It's columns. Equal to 2. As the text total books is equal to n. Each TD element in the table should have text. We need to add all this text. Okay. Should have this. Just type whatever. Okay. Then we'll just write a validity here 2000 or something. And we'll just copy paste it everywhere. Okay, we have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 and all. TD element in the T4 element should show. Okay, it's called span actually. Not columns, called span. Just write it down. Called span. TD element should have a called span address set to 4. Oh. Columns, 4 columns. Oh, okay. My mistake on my part. Okay, done. Now this is done, and next section is working with HTML tools. Last 3 sections. Okay, let's see. What is an HTML validator and how can it help you debug your code? HTML is a very foreign language. Elements still render even when you make mistakes, like forgetting to include a closing tag. Let's say you have a H2 element without a closing tag. Okay. H2 without a closing tag will still render fine. This happens because browsers are a parsing algorithm that handles common errors and tries to render HTML as closely as possible to the author's intention. But this could backfire sometimes. Let's add few paragraphs under the heading 2 tags in the code. Heading 2 tags in the code. Okay. Okay. As a result, the paragraph element under the H2 without a closing H2 tag renders as heading 2. This is why you need an HTML validator. An HTML validator is a tool that checks the validity of your HTML code against the standard HTML specification. It helps you identify errors and warnings in your HTML code, ensuring your web pages are correctly structured and compliant with web standards. Using an HTML validator benefits not only you but your future code reviews but also anybody else going through your code, such as your teammates and open source contributors. There are several HTML validators out there you can use. The most widely accepted one is the w3.org markup validation service. When you visit the site validator.w3.org, you can click on the validate by direct input button, paste in your HTML code and paste it right. When you click the check button, then a list of results will wait. So you can while okay. When you visit the site, you can click on the validate by direct input button, paste your HTML code. When you click on the check button, then the list of results will appear with the errors that need to be fixed. Another HTML validator you can use is JSON formatter.org. You can copy paste your HTML code inside the first editor, and you click on the validate button, it will show you any errors you have in your code. Okay. Why does the browser render tags correctly even when there is an error for getting close tag? Browser parsing algorithm figures out the error or not. Yes. What is an HTML validator? Do HTML no? Does HTML code work across? Yes. No. It's a tool checks validity of HTML. Yes. Which of these is an example of HTML validator? Public HTML validator. Is this correct? Yes, this is correct. Now next. Now this one, how to use the DOM inspector and DevTools to debug and build your projects. When you are building out your projects, you will frequently run into issues where your programs are not working as expected. Programmers often refer to these issues as bugs. The process of finding and fixing these bugs is known as debugging. To debug your code, you will need to use some tools provided by your browser. Two important tools used would be the DOM inspector and developer tools. The DOM inspector allows you to inspect the HTML structure of the page you are on, and DOM inspector allows you to inspect the HTML structure of the page you are on. Okay. The DOM stands for Documented Object Model. DOM, Documented Object Model. Okay. It is a tree-like structure that represents the element on a page. You will learn more about DOM in later modules. The developer tools allow you to inspect the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript of the page you are on. Let's take a look at the HTML example that contains a small bug in the anchor element. Okay. Now, when you click on the link, it will lead to a 404 page. A 404 page is an error page that appears when a user tries to access a web page that doesn't exist on the server. The intent is for the link to open to the free CodeCamp curriculum. So see what the issue might be. You can use the developer tools to open the developer tools. In your you can right click on the page and select inspect. Okay, you can use Control-Shift-I on your PC. Okay, we can try. We can have the inspect page over here. Okay, I'll just close this. Let's read it and go. Control-Shift-I on your PC or Command-I option on your Mac. When you open developer tools in Google Chrome, you will see a number of tabs. The first tab is called the Elements tab. The tab shows you the HTML structure of the page you are on. Second tab is called the Console tab. Let's see. First tab is the Elements tab. This is the Elements tab, and second tab is the Console tab. I think it's mentioning the bottom one. And the tab shows you any error that might be occurring in your page. Okay. In the situation where you have broken link, you can check the console to see the error message for that broken link. The common message that continues to display to be broken link is the 0404 error, indicates that the page is not found. This lets us know the issue with the URL in the anchor element. When you inspect the href value, you will see there is a typo. Right now, there is a consumer structure LAN against step 404. LAN. Okay, it's talking about this console, second console. Okay. having a lot of things. Okay. Right now, confirmation shows a slash LAN against a 404. But the correct URL should be slash learn, where the link is corrected, then it will work as expected. Okay. I don't think it's written LAN anywhere. Okay. URL was preloaded using link preloaded. This one. Probably this one. Nothing else that comes close to what he's saying. Okay. You will learn more about working with the developer tools throughout this application, but this is just a short example of how I can help you debug your code. Okay, let's see instead of learn example code. Okay, this is the one, I think. Okay, this is the issue, I think. A lot of focusable elements. Okay, let's close this for now. Control Shift. Okay, what is the process of finding and fixing bugs in the code called debugging? Okay, what is the tree-like structure at DVAM? But DVAM is called Documented Object Model. What is the role of the Elements tab in the developer tools? Elements tab in the developer tools. It shows you the HTML structure. Yes, this is correct. Now submit and next challenge. This is also done. Now these two are left. Only 51 is done. Out of 53. Now these two are left. Okay, I think this is a quick run through. Forms review. Okay, form element used to create HTML form for user input. Action attribute used to specify the URL where the form directed. Then method attribute used to specify the HTML method used the link of the get or post. Okay, input element used to create an input field for the user. Type attribute used to specify the type of user field. Okay. Placeholder attribute used to show a hint to the user to show them. Okay. Value attribute used to specify the value of the input. If the input has a button type, the value attribute can be used to set the button text. Name attribute used to assign a name to an input field, which serves as a key when the form data is submitted. For radio buttons, giving them the same name groups them together, so only one option in the okay. Size attribute used to define the number of characters that will be visible as the user types into the field. Minimum attribute can be used with the inputs types such as number to specify the minimum allowed in the field input field. Maximum attribute, okay. Minimum length, maximum length, we know. Required, no. Disabled read only, we know that. Okay. Label element used to create label or input field. For attribute used to specify which field the label is for. Implicit form association, inputs can be associated with labels by wrapping the input field with the label element. Okay. Explicit. Wait. Inputs can be associated with labels by wrapping the input field inside the label element. Okay. Explicit inputs can be associated with labels by using the for. Okay. Wait. Input is inside label. Okay. This is implicit and this is explicit. I think for better understanding, implicit would be easier because it's coming inside label only. We don't need to write extra things for this. Okay, whatever. Button element used to create a clickable button or button and use controls behavior. Okay. Fields element used to group related inputs together. There's an element used to add a caption to describe the group of inputs. Focus state is a state of an input field when it is selected by the user. Working with the HTML tables are table element, table head, t-head, table row, table header, table body, table data cell, table foot, caption element used to add title to it, HTML tab, calls by an attribute used to specify the number of columns a table cell should take on. Working with HTML validated tool that checks on syntax of HTML to ensure it is valid. A tool that allows you to inspect and modify the HTML. A set of web developer tools built directly into the browser that helps you debug, profile, and analyze web pages. Okay, done. So that is also done. Last section is left, which is HTML tables and forms queues. Okay, we'll take the queues right now. What is the action attribute inside the opening form? It is used to specify the input. No, it is used to show the used to define the number of characters. No, it is used to specify URL. Yes. What is the following attribute used to HTML? What is the following attribute is used to specify the HTML method? Which of the following is the common method used when working with forms? This can get and post common. Get post is not here, so get is probably the one. Which of the following is not a valid value for the type attribute? Email, text, number, HTTP is not a valid one. Which of the following is the correct way to create a button in a form? Form input type equal to button, get button. No, input type is a button. Yes. Okay. What is implicit form association? But this is where input can be associated with labels by using the for no. Then wrapping the input field inside the label. Yes. Okay. What is the role of field set element? It is used to create a label for the input field. No, it is used to group the header content in the HTML table. No. It is used to group related inputs together. Yes. Which of the following is used to create a checkbox in a form? Type is equal to checkbox. Yes. Which of the following elements is used to add a title for the HTML page caption? Okay. What is the role of the legend element? It is used to know it is that add a caption to describe the cells of the table, describe the group of inputs. Yes. Which of the following elements is used to group the header content in a HTML table? Group the header content. T-head. Okay. Which of the following is the correct way to add rows and data cells to a table? Add rows and data cells. This one. Okay. TR. No, not this one. This one. Not this one. Shit. This one. Yes. What is the DOM? Yes, it's a tool that helps you debug, profile, and analyze. No. Told that no. Told that no. No, I told that yes. Yeah. Which of the following is a tool that checks syntax of HTML code to ensure it is valid? Validator. Which of the following is the correct way to specify the number of columns for data cells in a table? Call span. Yes. What is the focus state of input field? The state of input field when it is selected by the user. Yes. Then certain no. When the focus is removed, it is no. Which of the following is the correct way to use the radio button? Type radio. Oh. Yes. What is the role of for attribute? It is used to create label for the input field. It is specify which input field the label is for. Yes. Yes. Which of the following attributes is used to define the number of characters should be visible in the size? Which of the following attributes is used to show to the user to show them what to enter in the input field? Please hold on. Let's check. Okay, let's see. Done. Correct. Oh no, this is incorrect. It would allow you to inspect and modify. Oh, We got this wrong. Shit. Okay. Correct, 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 correct. Yes. Except one, everything else is correct. Now, next challenge. Yes. Okay, forms and tables are done right now. We'll just need to build a survey form, accessibility, and HTML preview. That's it for the HTML part. And this is it for this video, and that's it. Thank you.